The species that evolved through fire. The crystalline spires of the Grand Nexus pierced the emerald sky of Australis Prime, home to the Galactic Confederation's central governing body. Within the council chamber, representatives of 300 spacefaring civilizations gathered for what would become the most consequential meeting in 10,000 cycles. High Arbiter Thela, a luminous being composed of pure energy contained within an ornate exoframe, addressed the assembly. Her resonant voice flowed through the neural networks connecting all present. Esteemed colleagues, our deep space monitoring stations have detected a new intelligent species on the fringes of the Perseus Arm. They call themselves humans. Holographic displays materialized throughout the chamber, showing scenes from Earth, sprawling cities, primitive spacecraft, early quantum computers, and most disturbingly, countless instances of warfare. They are young, Thela continued, barely a century into their space age, yet they advance at a rate unprecedented in our records. What takes most species millennia, they achieve in decades. The display shifted to show human technological progression, from simple flight to orbital capabilities, from basic electronics to rudimentary artificial intelligence, all compressed into a timeline that made several council members shift uncomfortably. More concerning is their adaptability and response to adversity, Thela said. Our analysis shows a direct correlation between the severity of challenges they face and their rate of innovation. Ambassador Krell of the Dracari Empire, a reptilian species with scales that shimmered like oil on water, gave a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. Surely you don't suggest this primitive species poses any threat to established civilizations. Their technology is centuries behind even our most basic systems. It is not their current capabilities that concern us. Thela responded, her energy field pulsing with emphasis. It is their potential. Their neural architecture is unique. They possess both analytical and creative problem-solving abilities that exceed our predictive models. Most importantly, they exhibit a trait we've rarely encountered. They become more innovative under pressure. The chamber erupted in discussion. Among the voices, Science Director Malus of the Centauri Collective remained silent, her compound eyes reflecting the holographic displays with keen interest. Thela raised her energy field, silencing the chamber. We propose sending a diplomatic mission. First contact must be handled with extreme care. Their psychological profile suggests they could become either our greatest allies or our most dangerous adversaries. The Confederation Council approved the mission, but as the delegates departed, Ambassador Krell transmitted an encrypted message to the Dracari High Command. Primitive species discovered. Minimal defenses. Strategic location. Recommend immediate action before Confederation interference limits our options. The diplomatic mission departed within a standard cycle, led by Ambassador Elora, a veteran of first contact scenarios. Her team believed they had prepared for every contingency. They were wrong. The human response to their arrival was not hostile, but neither was it what they expected. Instead of dealing with a unified planetary government, they found themselves navigating a complex web of nation-states, each with its own agenda. The humans' questions were not what they anticipated. They're impossible to predict, Elora reported back to the council. When we present scientific knowledge, they ask about art. When we discuss technology, they want to know about philosophy. Their minds work in patterns we cannot map. The mission's carefully crafted protocols began to unravel. Cultural misunderstandings multiplied. When the delegation shared basic aspects of galactic history, the humans immediately identified patterns and connections that had gone unnoticed for millennia. When they demonstrated simple technologies, the humans didn't show the expected awe, but instead began theorizing ways to improve them. Meanwhile, the Dracari Empire's war fleet was already in motion, its commanders dismissing the Council's concerns as overly cautious. They had conquered dozens of emerging civilizations. How different could these humans be? As the diplomatic mission struggled to establish meaningful dialogue, Earth's governments were already analyzing the alien technology they had glimpsed, developing new theories, and beginning research programs. They had recognized something the aliens hadn't intended to reveal. Their technology, while advanced, followed predictable patterns. It could be understood, replicated, and improved. The mission ended 3 months later. Ambassador Elara's final report was troubling. They are not ready for integration into galactic society, not because they are too primitive, but because they are too unpredictable. They do not think as we do. They do not fear what they do not understand. Instead, they become fascinated by it. As the diplomatic vessels departed Earth's solar system, humanity was already changing, adapting, preparing. They had seen proof they were not alone, and that was enough. In laboratories and research centers across the globe, humans began working on technologies they had only glimpsed. In military installations, strategists studied the aliens' movements, noting patterns and weaknesses the visitors didn't even know they were showing. The Council's warning about humanity's potential went unheeded by those who should have listened most carefully. The Drakari Empire saw only a primitive species ripe for conquest. They would learn too late why the Council's concerns had been justified. In the darkness between stars, the Drakari war fleet accelerated toward Earth, their commanders confident in their superior technology and overwhelming numbers. They didn't realize they were about to encounter something their vast empire had never faced before. A species that thrived on challenges, that grew stronger in the face of adversity, and that was about to show the galaxy why underestimating humanity was the last mistake many civilizations would make. Supreme Commander Vorax stood on the bridge of the Drakari flagship in inevitable victory, watching as the tactical display showed their fleet approaching the solar system. 3,000 warships strong. It was the largest invasion force assembled in the Empire's history. Overkill for such a primitive species, but Vorax believed in making statements. Status report, he commanded, his scaled skin gleaming under the bridge's harsh lights. Local defense forces detected. Commander, his tactical officer responded. Primitive orbital platforms, a handful of chemical propulsion warships, and ground-based missile systems. Nothing that poses a threat to our technology. Vorax's jaw ridges flexed in amusement. Send the standard ultimatum. Demand their immediate surrender and integration into the Empire. Give them one planetary rotation to comply. The message was transmitted in all known human languages. The response came faster than expected, from a hastily formed Earth Defense Council. It was brief. We decline your generous offer. Proceed at your own risk. The bridge crew chittered in amusement. Such bravado from a species that hadn't even mastered basic gravity manipulation was almost endearing. Vorax gave the order to begin the invasion. The first wave of Drakari ships entered Earth's orbit, their energy shields easily deflecting the primitive nuclear missiles launched in response. But as they moved to destroy Earth's orbital defenses, something unexpected happened. The seemingly primitive orbital platforms suddenly released clouds of what appeared to be debris. The Drakari shields, calibrated to stop energy weapons and solid projectiles, didn't register the clouds as threats. Within moments, the microscopic machines in these clouds had attached themselves to the ship's hulls and begun reproducing, using the ship's own energy emissions as fuel. Multiple ships reporting system failures. The tactical officer announced, his previous amusement replaced by confusion. The humans, they've developed some kind of self-replicating nanomachine. It's consuming our hull material and interfering with our shield generators. Before Vorax could respond, a second surprise emerged. Earth's primitive chemical rockets weren't attempting to reach the Drakari ships. Instead, they were detonating at precise distances, creating an expanding field of plasma that played havoc with Drakari sensors and communication systems. Clever, Vorax admitted grudgingly, but ultimately futile. Launch the ground invasion. Let's see how they handle real combat. Clever, Vorax admitted grudgingly, but ultimately futile. Launch the ground invasion. Let's see how they handle real combat. Thousands of dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere. As predicted, human aircraft and ground defenses managed to intercept some, but most made it through. What wasn't predicted was the nature of humanity's ground defense. The Drakari ground forces were met not by massed armies, but by an endless series of adaptive responses. Roads rearranged themselves, buildings transformed, civilian infrastructure became weaponry. Humans had apparently spent the months since first contact preparing for exactly this scenario. In New Delhi, Drakari forces found their energy weapons mysteriously deflected by what appeared to be modified cell phone towers. In Sao Paulo, their atmospheric processors were rendered useless by a hastily constructed network of weather control devices. In Cairo, their gravity tanks were disabled by concentrated electromagnetic pulses generated by the city's power grid. How are they doing this? Vorax demanded as reports of failures flooded in. Their technology was assessed as primitive, sir, his science officer responded, mandibles trembling. They're not using advanced technology. They're using their existing technology in ways our simulations didn't predict. They're improvising. The truth began to dawn on Vorax. The humans hadn't needed to match Drakari technology. They simply needed to understand it well enough to counter it. And during those months of diplomatic contact, while the Confederation's representatives had been frustrated by human unpredictability, the humans had been studying, learning, and preparing. As the first day of invasion stretched into the second, then the third, the Drakari Empire's overwhelming technological advantage began to erode. Human nanomachines spread through their fleet like a virus. Human hackers, having decoded the basic principles of Drakari computer systems, launched increasingly effective cyber attacks, and human scientists, working around the clock, began reverse engineering captured Drakari technology. By the end of the first week, the invasion force that was supposed to subjugate Earth in hours was in disarray. Vorax faced a choice: commit more forces and risk even greater losses, or withdraw and face the Empire's disappointment. Before he could decide, new contacts appeared on their long-range sensors. Sir, detecting multiple ships emerging from FTL, the tactical officer's voice rose in panic. They're human vessels. Somehow they've adapted our own drive technology. Vorax watched in disbelief as ships of human design, powered by reverse-engineered Drakari technology, took up attack positions around his fleet. The message they broadcast was as brief as their first response. Your technology is impressive. We made some improvements. Would you like to discuss surrender terms? In that moment, Vorax understood why the Confederation Council had urged caution. The humans hadn't just adapted to invasion. They had treated it as an opportunity to advance. Each challenge had been met with innovation, each setback with new solutions. They didn't think like any species the Empire had encountered before. As he prepared to give the retreat order, Vorax wondered if the Empire had finally found something more dangerous than a powerful enemy, a species that grew stronger with every attempt to defeat it. The fire that forged steel. In the aftermath of the Drakari Empire's failed initial assault, humanity faced a profound revelation. They were no longer alone, and they were no longer safe. The emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council wasn't just historic, it was unprecedented. For the first time, representatives from every nation on Earth sat together with a single purpose. Dr. Maya Chen, director of the newly formed Global Defense Initiative, stood before the assembly. Behind her, holographic displays showed the remnants of the Drakari invasion fleet regrouping at the edge of the solar system. The technology projecting these images hadn't existed 2 weeks ago. They will return, she stated plainly. Our victory, while significant, was primarily due to the element of surprise. We cannot count on that advantage again. She gestured, and the display shifted to show captured alien technology. But we have something more valuable than surprise. We have their technology, and more importantly, we understand how they think. The assembly chamber buzzed with discussion. Admiral Rodrigo Vega, formerly of the Brazilian Navy and now commander of Earth's fledgling space fleet, stepped forward. The Drakari think in straight lines, he explained. Their technology is powerful but predictable. They haven't faced a serious challenge in millennia. They haven't needed to innovate. Satellite feeds showed the global transformation already underway. The nanomachines that had crippled the Drakari fleet were being reprogrammed for construction. Cities were being rebuilt with integrated defense systems. The orbital platforms that had surprised the invasion force were being replaced with more sophisticated versions. In research centers across the globe, scientists from former rival nations worked side by side, pushing the boundaries of their understanding. The quantum computing breakthrough in Tokyo was immediately shared with labs in Boston. Metallurgists in Johannesburg collaborated with engineers in Moscow to develop new materials based on alien composites. But humanity's greatest advantage wasn't just technological adaptation, it was psychological warfare. Colonel Amara Okafor, head of strategic operations, outlined their approach. The Drakari expect resistance to decrease as their forces demonstrate superiority. Instead, we'll show them something they've never seen, an enemy that gets stronger with every attack. Captured Drakari communications revealed their confusion and growing concern. Human tactics defied their military doctrine. When they jammed Earth's communications, humans responded with a decentralized quantum network. When they deployed energy shields, humans developed weapons that bypassed them entirely. Every Drakari victory was Pyrrhic. Every setback turned into an opportunity for human advancement. The Confederation Council, monitoring the situation from afar, watched with a mixture of fascination and concern. High Arbiter Thiela's warning had been prophetic. Humans didn't just adapt. They evolved under pressure. The very act of trying to suppress them made them stronger. In orbital shipyards that had been car factories months ago, humanity's first true space fleet took shape. The ships looked nothing like their Drakari counterparts. They incorporated elements of every culture on Earth, blending designs and ideas in ways the aliens found impossible to predict. Dr. Chen's team made another crucial discovery studying Drakari technology. Their entire empire was built on technological stagnation. They hadn't needed to innovate for so long that they'd lost the ability. Their weapons, while powerful, were unchanged for centuries. Their tactics were coded into AI systems that couldn't adapt to human unpredictability. They see technology as something to possess, Dr. Chen explained to the UN Assembly. We see it as something to improve. They seek perfection. We seek evolution. This is why they can't understand us, and this is why we'll win. The transformation of Earth's defenses reflected this philosophy. Instead of copying Drakari designs, human engineers took the basic principles and reimagined them. Drakari energy weapons became variable frequency defense systems. Their rigid shield technology was adapted into dynamic barriers that could learn from attacks. But perhaps the most significant development came from an unexpected source. A team of video game designers, brought in to run battle simulations, created an AI system that could predict Drakari tactics with stunning accuracy. They're like NPCs in a game, one designer explained. They'd follow patterns. Once you understand the patterns, you can write new rules. As Earth prepared for the inevitable counterattack, the Drakari Empire faced an unprecedented situation. A species that had not only survived their initial invasion, but had emerged stronger. Their strategic algorithms, designed for conventional warfare, couldn't process an enemy that treated defeat as a learning opportunity. In the Confederation Council chambers, the delegates watched as humanity achieved in months what had taken other species centuries. Thiela's voice carried a note of awe. We didn't just underestimate their potential for advancement. We underestimated their capacity for unity. They don't merely cooperate, they synergize. Every individual advancement becomes a collective resource. 6 months after the first invasion, Supreme Commander Vorax was replaced by Grand Marshal Krazak, the Empire's most decorated military leader. Krazak brought with him a fleet 3 times larger than the first, the Drakari's full military might. This time, we will not underestimate them, Krazak announced to his officers. We will overwhelm them with such force that adaptation becomes impossible. The second invasion began with a massive bombardment from beyond the range of Earth's defenses. Dracari ships launched energy projectiles designed to penetrate deep into the planet's crust, triggering earthquakes and tsunamis. They deployed atmospheric scramblers to disrupt weather patterns and communication. It was a strategy that had broken the will of dozens of species before. But Earth's response was swift and surprising. The earthquake weapons were neutralized by what appeared to be massive subterranean energy sinks, technology the Dracari had never encountered before. The tsunamis were calmed by gravitic stabilizers deployed along coastlines. And most shocking of all, the atmospheric attacks were not only countered but reversed, turning the Dracari's own weapons against them. Impossible, Krasik muttered as the reports came in. How could they have developed defenses against weapons they'd never encountered? The answer came from his intelligence officer. Sir, it appears they've been studying our historical records. The diplomatic envoys. They shared our database of conquered worlds. The humans analyzed our previous invasion strategies and prepared accordingly. Before Krasik could formulate a new strategy, Earth launched its counterattack. From hidden bases on the Moon and Mars, established in secret during the 6-month respite, a fleet of human warships emerged. They didn't match the Dracari vessels in size or raw power, but they moved in patterns the Dracari tactical computers couldn't predict, striking from unexpected angles with weapons that seemed to adapt mid-battle. Most disturbing were the humans' quantum communication systems. Unlike the Dracari's rigid command structure, human ships operated with a level of autonomy and coordination that made them seem to act as a single organism. When the Dracari adapted to one tactic, the humans would instantly shift to another, as if anticipating the response. The battle lasted for 3 days. By the end of it, more than half of the Dracari fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest retreated to regroup, only to find that the humans had somehow managed to mine their fallback positions with automated combat platforms reverse-engineered from Dracari technology. Krasik, facing defeat for the first time in his 300-year career, enacted the Empire's final protocol, the Planet Killer. A massive ship, hidden in reserve, moved into position. It carried a weapon capable of rendering Earth's surface uninhabitable. Better to destroy this aberration than allow it to spread, Krasik declared. The humans have proven themselves too dangerous to be permitted existence in our galaxy. As the Planet Killer charged its main weapon, a small fleet of human ships appeared behind it. They had somehow tracked it through what the Dracari had believed was impenetrable stealth technology. These weren't warships, but what appeared to be civilian vessels retrofitted with strange, bulbous attachments. Before the Planet Killer could fire, the human ships activated their devices. Instead of launching an attack, they created what scientists would later call a probability bubble, a field that altered quantum uncertainty. Within this field, improbable events became probable. The Planet Killer's carefully balanced antimatter containment system experienced a 1 in a billion failure cascade across all redundant systems simultaneously. The resulting explosion was visible from Earth as a new brief star in the night sky. In his final transmission to the Dracari homeworld, Krasik expressed what many species were beginning to realize. They are not just another species. They are evolution embodied. Every challenge makes them stronger. Every threat makes them more innovative. We did not lose to their weapons. We lost to their nature. In the Confederation Council chambers, silence fell as the feed from the battle concluded. Then, one by one, the representatives began to speak, calling for immediate diplomatic recognition of humanity as a pure civilization. They had seen what became of those who underestimated humans. High Arbiter Thela addressed the assembly one final time before retiring from her position. I warned that humans could become our greatest allies or our worst nightmare. The Dracari Empire chose to make them the latter. Let us hope we can still make them the former. 1 standard year after the defeat of the Dracari fleet, a new diplomatic mission arrived at Earth. This time, they came not with patronizing offers of limited technology exchange, but with proposals for full integration into the galactic community. They were met by a unified Earth government and a fleet of ships prepared to escort them. Ships that incorporated technologies the Confederation's scientists still didn't fully understand. The humans had taken alien principles and pushed them in directions no one had imagined possible. The message humanity broadcast to the stars was clear. They were no longer just defending themselves. They were ready to reshape the galaxy. The Drakari had wanted to make an example of Earth. They had succeeded, but not in the way they intended. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or weapons, but its ability to turn adversity into advantage. As the new age of galactic relations began, one phrase entered the lexicon of spacefaring civilizations. When facing a seemingly insurmountable challenge, they would say, "Send for the humans." It wasn't just a recognition of human ingenuity. It was an acknowledgement that in all the galaxy, no force was more creative, more adaptive, or more unstoppable than a human with their back against the wall. The species that had evolved through fire had now taken its place among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same.